how the local market is responding to this
Yeah.
strategy. You're laughing. This strategy idea or implementation or
The important thing is that everybody has to know what's necessary to know. Because what you mentioned before is that people sometimes have it in their heads. They sit at the top level of the organization and nothing is communicated to the lower levels. And then you have
miscommunication.
discommunication, misalignments, misunderstandings, and so on.
There is a lack of communication
Yeah.
between the business owner, the marketing manager, and the social media marketer, the person that actually will publish the post, will create the campaign. How do you believe that a strategy can apply in the digital world and in the digital era compared to the real life, if I may say,
Yeah.
manufacturing, retail, or whatever.
It is the industry, the digital industry, is I think it forces you to go through a strategic planning in order to be successful.
Welcome to another Social Cast episode. Today we're gonna discuss about strategy. We have with us an experienced business consultant, Mr. Loukis Tapakis. Loukis, welcome.
Hi, Orestes. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure, even though it's the first time I'm having a podcast, and let's see how it goes.
And also vodcast it's called because we have videos
Okay,
and cameras as well.
Of course, yeah.
So, welcome. Let's start, Loukis, by just give us a brief explanation of your background and where you're coming from before we start discussing about strategy and enlightening our viewers how they can use the so-called strategy or the tools of strategy and what is strategy for their business and to bring results.
Yeah. Well, I have about 15 years of experience in consulting, and I have also another 15 years in C-level positions, mainly C-level positions in the industry, in different areas of the industry, trading, services, and so on. My consulting background includes companies of many directions, starting from production, servicing, transportation, wholesale, retailing. So it's always very interesting to discover new
and jump
areas
from,
and how
from one industry to another and how it reacts. Yes.
Yes, it's always challenging, and it gives you a lot of experience, because whatever you have from one industry as an experience, somehow it can relate to the other industry. Not 100%, but
you need to adapt.
You need to adapt, and you take things that are important or critical for one industry, and you translate them into important things into the other industry. So it's always good to go from one industry to the other. It gives you a wider understanding of things, and then all this experience gathered, you can use it to the next customer.
For the consulting
service,
yeah. I really liked your presentation and the title you had. Strategy is a linear equation.
Yeah.
And let's start with that, because that gives me the idea of that we can have a beginning, some steps, and probably an end. Yes.
Yeah.
So what is strategy, and how can you define strategy?
Okay, let's talk a bit about this equation I usually mention. It's something I I would like to imagine that strategy is a linear equation with the meaning of having things adding up to a specific objective. It has to make sense. This is the idea before of using this terminology. It's not. It's my terminology anyway. But it has to make sense, and usually strategy does not make sense. So you have people misusing the term of strategy, and they consider that having a vague target or a vague understanding of things at one part of an organization and not throughout the organization is the strategy.
Sometimes people confuse the tactic or the tactics with strategy. Yes.
Or even a target of at the level of last year, we had an income of X amount, and let's have an X amount plus 10% this year, and this is our strategy.
Yes.
Which is nothing. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything. Yes.
Yes.
So if we go back to the equation paradigm I'm using, is the first thing is has to make sense, first of all. The second thing is the end result of an equation is what you aim for, and this aim is what the target of the organization is, and we will discuss later on, I guess, how this is set, and work backwards in order to have all the other elements equal to this result. So you have to work backwards. So you have an end result of something, and you have to work backwards, having the resources, and the one element is the resources that you have to align in order to achieve this objective, plus the impact of these resources. And let me give you an example.
Yes.
To make it clear. Let's say an organization has a target of achieving 5 million euro of income revenue at the end of a year. Okay. And this, so this is the result. And then you have all the people or the resources. If it's in production, all the equipment, all financial resources, or any other kind of resources,
yes.
Aligned with this target. For example, you cannot have a target of 5 million income without having the capacity to produce products that will lead you to make that amount. So you have to, or the people to implement tasks,
or the systems,
or the
financial resources,
everything to lead you to this amount. And then you have the impact of these resources that has to make sense also. In what sense? You have to have specific KPIs to the people who are going to implement specific targets to achieve this target, to guide them and streamline all their efforts towards this direction. So what we usually see is that organizations having a target without being aligned with the resources, without giving the motivation, without giving the controls to guide and lead people towards that direction. And then you have just the result is like a nice to have result and nothing more than, which is not a strategy, right?
Or is something that comes from the few managerial people that push some
they just push, hoping that they will achieve that result.
Yeah.
And
so practically, what is like strategic planning? Practically, like, and with very plain terms, so people understand. In small medium corporation or businesses, like of 10 people or 15 people or 5 people. How can someone create a strategic plan and execute it?
I believe a strategic plan is having the answers to all the wheres, the who, the what, the why, the how, the when, if you have the answers to all these questions, it's actually the strategy. That's another simplified way of presenting a strategy. So the what is what we want to achieve, the how is how we are going to achieve it, the what is the where is where we're going to achieve it, who is going to achieve it, when is going to achieve it, and then it goes into detailed tasks that will eventually lead you to the main objective.
Detailed tasks that break down in months, weeks, days.
Or even tasks, or even tasks to specific group of people, or departments, or area, or departments. So if you answer all these questions, you probably get to a strategic to end up with a strategic plan.
Who should be responsible or be involved in the strategy? Everyone, or
okay, that's a very good.
Or it's just a managerial.
What we usually see is that it is decided and it stays at the corporate level.
At the top level, yes.
Yeah, and then this is it's geared to fail because it's not the management that create the results. It's the organization. It's the whole organization that will lead to their actions will lead to the results. So you have the top management making the decisions on what we want to achieve, when we want to achieve it, at what level we want to achieve it, and you have all this set, and then you have the different levels of the strategy, the different strategic levels that they will have to have their contribution into this plan, a very specific contribution into this plan. So you have the corporate level, you have the business level of strategy. So let me go a little bit back. You have the corporate level where you set the targets, but not only the targets. The corporate level, which is the top management, can also make decisions on diversification issues, new products issues, branding issues. So this is what the corporate strategy is all about. So it's a decision that is decided by the owners, probably of an organization, and that's it. Then you have the business level, where the departments and the people that actually do the work to go there. So every department has to define what is their contribution into achieving this objective, how it's going to be achieved. Like, for example, it's expected to have a 10% increase on a specific product. So how are we going to achieve this 10%? Probably one strategy might be by cross-selling products to our customer base, or it might be through generation of new customers in one specific niche, or a new market, or diversify the product a bit so we attract more customers.
Yes.
So these decisions can be made from different departments at the business level of strategy. And then you have the functional level, where you have HR, maybe marketing, and so on, the supportive departments, where these people, they have to find the ways, the impact, to make all the previous level, the business level, to support the business level, to achieve the corporate level targets and strategies. So it's like a linear path that you have to follow, and everything has to add up to a specific target set by the top level.
Do you believe that the top management should communicate in detail the targets and the strategy of the company, or should just say a few things, like, for you is this target, for you do this, for you do that, and I'm the only one that I know where are we going? What is your opinion and
Yeah,
way
this is
of?
always a challenging question. The thing is that the corporate level has to communicate what is necessary to be known by the business level management of the business level. The business level management can communicate to specific departments or specific people things that are necessary to know, but not everything. And then it's actually you communicate what is necessary
To know.
to know. But the important thing is that everybody has to know what is necessary to know. Because what you mentioned before is that people sometimes have it in their heads. They sit at the top level of the organization and nothing is communicated to the lower levels. And then you have
Miscommunication.
discommunication, misalignments, misunderstandings, and so on. So what is important is to have at least the fundamentals distributed throughout the organization, so everybody has to commit, and this is a part of the engagement. If they commit with specific targets, objectives, actions, improvements, which are the lowest level of a strategic plan, this would mean that everybody who's involved in taking responsibility for certain actions, it increases exponentially the level of commitment and the level of success of a strategy.
There is another issue here, which is also very important for business owners, for everybody basically in a company, which is the incentives that they are given to achieve a specific
Yeah.
goal, and the motivation schemes and all this. How do you approach this, and how do you make sure that at the end of the day, this 10% is not going to cost you 12%
20%,
in 15% in bonuses and
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned a very important point. As you may understand that the part of the equation I mentioned about the impact of the resources. So the impact of the resources should not be generic. For example, what we usually see is like a percentage commission on the sales of the sales department on their performance, which is an easy way to control the cost because it's income related.
Yeah.
So it doesn't go out of the expectations. But does this impact the people who are going to make the sales at the level that they would really make the sales? So what you actually want to do is like adjust KPIs or targets on the how they are going to achieve that. So if you have just a commission percentage on sales, a salesman would care about making sales in vague without having a strategic or a vision on how to achieve that. If you go back and say, okay, I give you a KPI, I want to create X amount of new customers. I want you to increase the sales of the specific product, and this another KPI, which you're going to be rewarded by this amount if you achieve that. And the cost and benefit of each of these KPIs is very easy to find out the cost and benefit. Therefore,
if you
can
break it down.
Yeah. So you break down the actions. For example, a salesman has to carry out in very detail, and you direct that towards the achievement. You don't leave it to his discretion to decide that he must make a 10% increase of his turnover, therefore make 10% more effort. Therefore, if you manage to do that, which is also it's not set, it's not based on calculations or studies sometimes, that there is potential to create this 10%.
Yes.
Okay, you might have to face competition, or you might face a closed market or whatever. So if you if you break it down to, for example, new customers, new products, new markets, whatever, and you set KPI specific on that, it's very easy for the salespeople, but this occurs to all the departments. So they have specific targets and they have specific direction on what they have to achieve that will end up with the formula, the equation,
Yes.
to the end up the desired objective.
Okay. Since you know we're a digital agency, and I know that other than all the industries that you've been, you were also in a digital era and in digital industry. So you know this sector as well. How do you compare or how do you believe that a strategy can apply in the digital world and in the digital era compared to the real life, if I may say,
Yeah.
manufacturing, retail, or whatever?
It is the industry, the digital industry, is I think it forces you to go through a strategic planning in order to be successful. Where in other industries, it's a matter of decision. I mean, in your area of your industry, you cannot implement, I believe, a strategic, or perform a campaign or have certain targets for a customer unless you answer all these whys, all these who, what, and so on. So the industry itself
Because of the pace
forces
is
you.
very fast, the pace, and probably because you see the numbers immediately, yes?
Yeah. One thing is that. But also, for example, if I assign you a campaign with a specific target, therefore you have the target, therefore you have the audience you're going to target for, and you have the budget, you have to split it to this, I guess, this
Objectives
market
and,
shares and
yes.
objectives and media and so on. So in a way, and this, I understand that there is a variation on how consistent, how deep any digital
Campaign
can go, the depth of it. But I guess there is a direction that pushes you to go towards the creating a more logic approach than a scatter one.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is indeed. And from my experience, the last 15 years that I'm in the industry of mainly social media, I do digital websites, etc., landing page campaign, etc. But I focus on social media, and I see that 90% of the business do not use a strategic approach on social media marketing.
Even there, huh?
Yes.
I would expect to have a higher level in that industry.
I would say maybe more, maybe 95. Like the top 5-10% of the business that have marketing departments and digital marketing departments, and they know how to plan and approach. I believe they do it, like Coca-Cola, or this
but
level.
You expect,
This
expect
level,
that, yeah.
this level. And this is I was very surprised when I showed you my method, and I told you, I've developed this, and it's very specific, and I documented it. Someone can view it on the internet, and you are like very simple reply to me. Yes, this is a strategy way of doing things. And I was like, yes, imagine if you are like, because social media marketing is mainly run by entry-level employees.
Yeah, I understand.
So imagine you are 22 or you're 23 and you have to do strategy. and you don't know how to do it.
Therefore, that brings us back to that equation I mentioned earlier. If the corporate level or the owners of a company have the strategy in their heads or documented on paper, then you have to align all these people.
Exactly.
And even
Exactly.
at the functional level, which is the marketing department, that you have to align
Exactly.
them.
Exactly.
And you have to give them the feedback and the information they need to build their campaigns and actions
Exactly.
at that detail that will impact everything and brings us to the end result.
Exactly. There is a lack of communication
Yeah.
between the business owner, the marketing manager, and the social media marketer, the person that actually will publish the post, will create the campaign. And it's no one's fault.
Of course, the
Because
responsibility is at the top level, huh?
yes,
For this.
yes, but
the communication and the
yes, but
yeah.
the top level believes that the social media marketer knows,
Or they don't understand
or
the
they don't understand
importance of communicating and
or
being
how,
very specific on how
or how.
and what,
Yes,
where, and
yeah,
so on. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm very very excited because this is a really specific way of understanding this, and this can, as I said on my promotional, it can be used as a common point of reference.
Yes.
Because it's, in very simple terms, you can communicate the two parts, and I'm very excited that I have someone in the strategy level that understands that.
Yes, it's very important. And unfortunately, even though you hear the word strategy taking different meanings in casual or in business conversations, the actual understanding of this flow of one department to the other and the communication and the focal point, which establishes the focal point of everything, even though it's very easy to be understood, it's very difficult to be designed and extremely difficult to be implemented.
To be executed.
Executed,
Yes.
So it's important to understand that strategy is not one thing. It's strategy at different levels. And all these three levels have to be aligned.
Have to align. Yes.
Yeah. So you have the corporate, their job is something else. You have the business, their job is different, and you have the functional, and their job is totally different. But all of them has to be aligned in the detail of actions.
Yes. Since you're in the industry many years, can you give us a little bit of how the local market is responding to this strategy? You're laughing. This strategy idea or implementation or.
I remember when I started my career back in 1993, being in a rather sizable organization and having a rather important role in that company. And I came from my MBA, and I tried to put to apply what I have learned in theory.
That is always very challenging.
That was very challenging. It was very weird because I was expecting something else and it was totally different. At that time, 30 years ago, people were talking only about, last year we had X amount of income, let's have X amount plus 10. That's it. That was about the level of strategy
and
back then.
And planning.
Then 10 years later, companies were breaking that down into departments, products, but still not a strategy. It is the last 10 years that I start finding this strategic planning of course, I'm talking about the medium-sized organizations. I'm not talking about the very large 50,
Yes.
100 organizations in the local market. I'm always
Yeah,
referring to.
It's always like that. It's like
Yeah, of course.
5% they are doing.
Yeah, these very big, sizable organizations, they have it because they have to have it. But even with organizations with 40, 50, 100 million income, they work a little bit in the dark, and they lack of this communication. But
Can I
it's
ask you?
coming there.
They have it because they have to have it, or they have it because this is how they grow there.
There are many ways, there are many reasons why this is happening. One of the reasons is because we have technical people. For example, somebody who's good in production of something. And as they grow, this person is a technical person. It's not a business. He does not have a business background. So the way they managed the companies at the early stages was like everything was there, everything was under his control. And as the company grows, the style of management does not change.
Yes.
That's one reason. The other reason is that since these people, sometimes they come from a specific background, a technical or a related to the products or the business they are into, they don't allow experts on management to take over certain responsibilities.
Yeah.
Lately, we have a very growth in the positions of operations managers, operations directors, so on, which it's a side way to go about having somebody making the strategy of the organization instead of having it at the top level, because at the top level they are too busy in business development mainly, or too busy in managing the organization, and they don't have probably the understanding of strategic planning. So there is a trend towards hiring operations managers and directors or whatever to have them work on that area. Yeah.
You mean on the area of
Strategic planning and implementing
the strategy?
Yeah.
You make me thinking now, because I just have an operation manager in my.
It's very common lately. Yes.
Yeah.
It was not common 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Because this role can take can be very volatile, because it can be at the level of designing the strategy and being the connecting link between all the departments and having that role that we explained earlier. And you have that person or implement a strategy that is decided at the top level. So this is a good bypass way of having the strategy designed and implemented, where if you didn't have this person, it was very difficult to implement.
All right. I think we had a good discussion.
Yes, thank you.
I don't know if you have a last message to our audience about the strategy and the way of thinking and implementing it.
Yeah, I believe strategy is very important, and any businessman who should have a few minutes, spend some time every year to put this on paper. Sometimes it's nice to have experts coming in, and I'm not trying to sell myself, but educate themselves even to make it on paper, to put everything on paper and have all these answers, as I mentioned earlier, because that will give them a higher percentage of success. It will make their people commit and engage to specific targets and make it clear what they have to do. Otherwise, it's something, I was doing that and let's do it a bit better this year and let's see what happens. Which
And
is
that is it only creates stress
confusion,
and
stress,
confusion.
yeah.
Thank you very much, Loukis.
Thank you.
I think you did very great at your first
Thank you.
podcast.
Yeah, thank you because you made me relax and
I told you that.
yeah, you told me. Yeah, you're right.
Thank you for staying until now. Subscribe on our YouTube channel for the upcoming episodes. It was an episode about strategy. I hope you enjoy it and see you at the next one.